Hey, fine folks. Listen, I was out on a morning walk and I had this thought and I wanted to just share a quick video, short video of what I hope is inspiration and encouragement. So while I was out on my walk, the story of the Shunammite woman and Elisha, the prophet found in second, sorry, stop, Coco. Sorry about that. Found in 2 Kings 4 came to my mind, right? So in this story, if you're not familiar with it, and even if you are, the Shunammite woman speaks to her husband and, says, as it relates to the prophet Elisha, she discerned him to be a man of God. And she was like, hey, let's build him a small walled room in our house so that whenever he comes through here, he may have a place to rest. So it was just put in her heart to do this for this man of God, no doubt, probably by God. So anyway, up on one of these visits from the prophet Elisha, and I'm saying Elisha because I learned that's the correct pronunciation, but we are used to saying Elisha. But upon one of these visits, right, to the Shunammite woman's home, he says to his servant Gehazi, to call for her. So he calls for the woman. He says, you've gone to all this trouble for me. What is it that I can do for you? You want me to put in a word on your behalf to the king or the captain of the guard, the army, or what have you? And she says, I live among my people in peace and security. This is the amplified version. So I don't need any special favors. And so, that's how that conversation ends. But then Gehazi says to Elisha, her husband is old and I noticed that she has no son. And so Elisha calls the woman back and says, by this time next year, you'll have a son. And this takes the Shunammite woman by surprise because no doubt this had been a desire of her heart, right? That had not been fulfilled. And she says, don't tease me in this way. And of course, he was not about teasing. And she did end up having a son. So I was thinking about this, right? The Shunammite woman, it was put in her heart to do good, not that she expected nor requested anything in return. And so that made me think of a few scriptures, and I had to write them down so I wouldn't forget. And so in Hebrews 13:16, it says, do not neglect to do good and share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. And then in Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, do with all your heart, as you're working, not as you're working for men, but as you're working for God, knowing that you'll receive an inheritance from the Lord. So it was put in the heart of the Shunammite woman to do good. And no doubt, there are probably other instances that are not recorded in scripture of her doing good. That was just what was in her. And so without expectation of return, it was just in her to do good. And because it was in her to do good, she ended up reaping a son, an inheritance through her son. And I want to end on Galatians 6:9, right? Many of you are probably familiar with that, about do not grow weary in well-doing, because at the right time you'll reap a harvest. And here's the key word. It's less about reaping the harvest, right? Your intentions and your motivations, and it's more about doing good. So what that is saying is do not get tired of doing good. There's no time limit on the promises of God and what God will do in your life. The whole point is, if it is in your heart to do good, keep on doing good. And so God's promises, inheritance, found that Shunammite woman doing good to the prophet Elisha, and in turn she reaped the harvest. So I just want to encourage you, whatever you're doing good, even if you have that long unfulfilled desire that you're still waiting on the manifestation of some long awaited promises. With God, his ways are not our ways, his timing is not our timing, but everything comes to us in divine timing at the right time when we're ready to receive that which has been promised to us. So continue to do good and just wait and see the promises of God unfold in your life. So with that, have yourself a very blessed day.